Alrighty, so big week for UFC. Alright, we got UFC 322 just around the corner this weekend as of the time of upload because I'm recording this beforehand. Alright, I'm recording this before UFC Randy Brown versus Gabriel Bonfim, and I'm doing that mainly because this week I'm going to be very busy, so I'm going to be doing a lot of pre-recorded videos beforehand, probably during a Sunday, and then it'll be uploaded throughout the week or during the Friday before the Randy Brown fight. And then I'll upload it throughout the week. So just a little channel update there. Very busy week for the boys. You know how it is for the working class. Now, with that being said, I wanted to talk about something as a newer, I guess, fan to the sport, as I've been watching every single UFC event for the past 3 years, top to bottom, every single card, live, through completely legal methods and not through any sort of external streaming services. Am I right, lads? Anyways, with that being said, let's get into the matchup that I want to talk about today. That might genuinely be the highest matchup, or the highest skill level fight in the UFC ever. At least as far as I've watched, okay? And that is, obviously, JDM taking on Islam Makhachev in the main event of UFC 322. Now, for those who are maybe newer to the sport, okay, Islam is pretty much considered to be pound for pound number one right now. I think he is pound for pound. No, he's not. Ilya Toporia's up there. That's right, baby. Cue the memes. Anyways, wow. Yeah, anyways. Islam Makhachev is pretty much regarded to be his pound for pound number one, other than like Ilya's win over Charles Oliveira. Islam Makhachev did it first, but I get it. I'm not complaining. Ilya Tabori's number one, but there's a lot of fans out there, if you're newer to the sport, that are very much of the mindset Islam is one of the greatest fighters of all time. Now, we can talk about pound for pound list or whatever all we want. I'm here to talk about this matchup, and I am an Islam not hater. If that makes sense, okay? I don't hate Islam Makhachev like one side of the fan base is. And it seems like there's either two sides to the fan base now, man. It's either you hate, like, when a fight's announced, it's you love one fighter, you hate the other one, and you try to smear their reputation. Now, aside from Islam Makhachev conveniently having a gym where, Usman Nurmagomedov pop for roids, other than that, and them just taking supplements at a young age, besides that stuff, could be being, money laundering over there and, just, playing a character, allegation stuff, if you get what I mean. But aside from that, right, Islam as a fighter, I don't mind. He's funny. He's kind of derpy, he's kind of like a source filmmaker, fucking heavy, just doing like weird shit. Sometimes, I eaty, I sleepy, I trainy, and that's it, Brother, who give him black belt? Somebody check this, brother. Take him to the 5th round. Just saying. Okay. But, yeah, I do think Islam Makhachev is a legit good fighter. I think he's one of the best fighters in the world right now. And I think he's on the pound for pound list, but, and I don't hate him as a personality. I think personality-wise, he's fine. Sometimes he does a little bit too much yapping, but, I mean, at the end of the day, we kind of like that. But regardless of that, Islam Makhachev, very good skill set, very good on the mic most of the time. Has a little bit of biases depending on where he's at, okay? But I do think, he beat Volkanovski the first time, and obviously in the rematch, but I do think he clearly beat, not clearly, it was a close fight, but you get my point. Like, I'm on the Islam side. I don't think that was a robbery or anything. I do see some people still saying the Volk 1 fight was a robbery. I disagree. Now he was holding on to dear life in the 4th, but you know what I mean. But yeah. But got his title shot off Bobby Green and Dan Hooker. Just saying. Just saying. Interesting title shot names. Okay. But regardless of that, very good fighter in Islam Makhachev. He's got the submission threats. He's really good at getting his submissions. He does fight anyone when they're on, how do I describe it? When he's in a prepared camp, he will fight anyone, so that's a little bit respectable. I know he's not showing up short notice because he's a champion, so I get that. you know. But, you know, if an opponent falls out, he'll take on the next opponent instantly. It's not like he's scared of whoever's going on. So I don't think he's scared of anybody, anything like that. Sometimes he underestimates his opponents, and that, I think, leads to tougher fights. But regardless of that, he's taking on Jack Del Maddalena. Now, if you don't know who JDM is, a little bit of a smaller name, I'd say, in the sport. He's more of like a, doesn't really talk on the mic. And he's gone ahead and beat, who was that champion's name? Um, I just can't remember the name. If you get that reference. Yeah, it was Bilal Muhammad, obviously. He beat Bilal Muhammad, and I still gotta rewatch the fight, and that's probably what my prediction is gonna lead down towards. Probably after this, I'm gonna rewatch the fight, do predictions for UFC 322, but regardless of that, Bilal Muhammad had the chin of the gods in that fight, okay? I know Bilal Muhammad is kind of seen as like a clown or whatever. He was a legit there to win, there to box as JDM, and he got outboxed. I mean, it's JDM. JDM's typically regarded as one of the best scramblers in the sport and one of the best boxers in the sport. Now, the Basel Efes fight, that's not really a good look. However, we do know Basel Efes then popped for roids, or it was some sort of steroid injection, and then he also looked like shit after he popped for roids. So that was another thing with Basel Efes. Did out-grapple JDM, but JDM won the fight. Kevin Holland, this is a split decision. I'm going to tell you right now, this is not a split decision. JDM could have won every single goddamn round. I think I even picked Kevin Holland, or I bet on Kevin Holland during this time. And I think JDM won the fight after I watched the fight. The Gilbert Burns fight, that was an interesting performance where he got held down. However, he did have one hand. I think he had one hand going into the fight, opposed to Umar having one hand during the fight because he broke it in the fight. A little bit different scenario. One ended up breaking his hand in the fight and then makes excuses about it. The other one went into the fight with a broken hand. You know what I mean? But, you know, just a little shade there. But yeah. Gilbert Burns fight, it was an interesting one. During this time, also Gilbert Burns, I don't think it's crazy for someone to get a title shot off Gilbert Burns, and it's kind of assumed that JDM was next in line. Hasn't had too many UFC performances that really stick out too much. You know, like, he's not Pereira just flatlining people when he goes in there, but he is doing really, really well against, like, the low-level comp. And then when he got higher up in the UFC, he did very, very well and proved himself against Bilal Muhammad, even in the grappling aspect, you know? And JDM's no slouch, you know? He's got submissions against the great Randy Brown. Where is he? Randy Brown. He's got a submission against Randy Brown. You know? So, I am still on the edge of who I'm picking in this fight, man. When this got announced, I went slight lean Islam Makhachev, I believe, and, you know, I do uploads on, you know, mainly the major fight announcement, also UFC breakdowns and fight card breakdowns, and, you know, the aftermath of everything, take away from every single fight, so feel free to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Corporate's reached out, gotta get that advertisement out. Anyways, with that being said, though, it is a very interesting fight. You know, you have a boxer who showcases a great chin so far. I mean, he hasn't really fought, like, powerful dudes, but he showcased a pretty good chin. There was some shots Bilal landed that I was, like, kind of shocked JDM didn't get any sort of sting from. Bilal could be pillow-fisted, to be fair. But, you know, boxer, great hands, decent power, great technique. One of the best techniques in the game in terms of, like, fluidity, how he goes in there. There's a lot of, like, desks in the UFC that'll break down JDM's style and how he just, like, crouches down whenever the takedown threat's there and he's too close and he thinks there might be a takedown coming, so he crouches down, gets ready to scramble, and he's able to scramble because he's got, like, a more in-torso. You know, he knows what to do on the ground, too, to get up, butterfly hooks, get to the top. Some of his reverses on Bilal Muhammad are just straight up beautiful to watch, even if you don't like nut huggers. It's still beautiful to watch, like, a nice scramble. I don't know. Am I the only one that enjoys a nice scramble, you know, during the nights? Just saying. Anyways. But yeah, this is a very high-level match. And I get the arguments on both sides, because this is what it comes down to. The MMA fan base, alright, and obviously none of my true enjoyers. Hey, any subscriber of my channel knows the truth, but the MMA fan base is really just like, oh, this person shit, this person good, that's why they win, you know? And sometimes it works, and you gaslight some people, you know? Like the Ankalaev Pereira rematch. I was being gaslit into believing Pereira had no chance in the rematch. All right? That's why I picked against him, guys. You know? That's what happened. But yeah, no, it's just like the Islam fan base is bringing up clips of JDM struggling against like Kevin Hall and Basil Efez and like early his two losses earlier on, and they're being like, you guys think this guy's gonna beat this guy? Or, oh my god, the amount of edits I've seen where it's like, oh, JDM's good, and it's like showcasing him getting hit by Bilal Muhammad, and then it just cuts to Islam Makhachev shushing, and then just fucking having a highlight of some of his highlights. But listen, man, you can say the other thing on the other side. This is the thing about being an MMA fan in Big 2025. If you look at Islam Makhachev's career, again, I like the guy, okay? I like the guy. I think his skill set's one of the best. But he has kind of only beat featherweights. Just saying, okay? Now, I get Oliveira is a filled-in lightweight now, all right? Famous weight miss against, I think it was Justin Gaethje during the Olive era. But it is just like, brother, you can say the same, like, Islam's going up a weight class, and formally at his own weight class, he kind of only beat featherweights or former featherweights. He beat the smaller dude, and now he's going up and fighting the bigger dude. You know what I mean? So this, in some respects, is Islam Makhachev's greatest test. Because so far, we can say, earlier in his career, you know, Thiago Moises, Drew Dober, whatever, he does great against those guys. Submission specialist. He's killing people on the lower rankings, unranked scene. And then his title shot with Bobby Green, Charles Oliveira. Bobby Green, Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker, former featherweight. Shouldn't have been. Should have stayed at lightweight, but I get it. Dan Hooker's a former featherweight, you know? Bobby Green, I don't remember him being a featherweight. I'm sure, like, Bobby Green ball knowers might know a little bit more in that respect. I do know Bobby Green's, like, former wrestler type of thing. Got into the UFC with his striking. Puts on great performances. One of my favorite fighters, but Bobby Green, to my understanding, lightweight. Charles Oliveira, former featherweight. Alexander Volkanovski, moving up for the first time, former featherweight. And he did very, very well until, like, round 4, where he kind of just got held down for like 3 to 4 minutes. And that was him getting held down. Can we just be real? That was pure size advantage on why he got held down. You know, I get like Islam had head position and all this other stuff. It's not like he was threatening chokes. If Volkanovski was like a bigger dude, he probably is able to sort of shuck out of that and get to his feet. Just saying, you know, gassing out in round 4 and 5, Islam Makhachev was, and then he gets dropped in round 5, and that's another thing we can bring up with the gas tank whenever Islam gets to the later rounds. But yeah, former featherweight, or I guess current featherweight, former featherweight, and former featherweight. Like, this guy's fought only former featherweights as a champion. Listen, I like Islam Makhachev, but that is a fact. He's only fought the smaller dudes. And a lot of them are big torso and sort of skinny, scrawny, everything else. You know, Volkanovski, massive torso. Dustin Poirier, massive torso. Oliveira's a little bit of a different situation. But then Oliveira was dumb in that fight and went for a flying knee and he got checked for it, you know? Why did Oliveira go for a flying knee, man? I even picked Islam in that fight, just saying. That was when I was very, very new into the sport, and I was one of those, like, oh, they're from Dagestan, just pick the Dagestani. But since then, I've grown, and this is still an interesting fight. And the same thing with JDM. Now, I know you can be like, Kevin Holland split decision. What do you think Makhachev's gonna do to him? I can already see people making those narratives, but it's like, when you watch these fights, it's not what happened. Likewise, with the Islam Makhachev stuff, it's not what happened that he just fought, oh, these former featherweights. Like, he is good. but there's always something off in an Islam fight. Charles Oliveira goes for a flying knee out of nowhere, not even close, misses the flying knee, gets checked while he's midair, and instantly gets submitted afterwards. I kind of get it. You got wobbled. Hard to defend submissions. I get it. Alexander Volkanovski, up a weight class. Okay, the rematch. Oh, great. He knocked him out in the rematch. 10 days short notice, off the couch drinking wine. The first fight, I credit. Sure. First fight, I credit. Second fight, I don't really give a lot of steam in that win. That was a 10-day short notice up a weight class Volkanovski, who's currently now still a featherweight. Therefore, in my opinion, Volk never got the time to bulk up properly. Just saying. And then, Dustin Poirier. And listen, Dustin Poirier is one of my favorite fighters. I know he's retired. And his veneers are making him look interesting. You know? I don't know what to say about those veneers and Dustin Poirier. I don't know why people get veneers, but it is what it is. Regardless of that, Dustin Poirier was washed at the time, okay? Now, I, again, love Dustin Poirier. After the Oliveira fight, he fought Chandler. This is, I think, where the spiral went, okay? We can say he was in prime during the McGregor fights. I'm fine with that. Hooker fight, I'm fine with that. The thing is that the Chandler fight is where he didn't really struggle with Chandler as much as Chandler just like cheating a lot, and then Poirier getting pissed that he was getting blood in his mouth and on his face and shit because Chandler was literally doing that, hooking the gloves, fingers in his mouth. It was a lot of weird shit. But after this, he gets head kicked by Justin Gaethje, right? I don't know, like, Justin Gaethje fans. I know a lot of Justin Gaethje fans. I'm a Justin Gaethje fan. The Justin Gaethje fans are gonna say, like, oh, that's not, like, a bad win or whatever. Or a bad loss. It kind of was. He was whooping Gaethje, and then Gaethje comes in with just a wild head kick and flatlines Poirier out cold. We could call it a fluke, lucky punch, whatever you want to call it. I think that's where the spiral went. Benoit Saint-Denis. Benoit's not a bad fighter. Let me get that straight. But people forget, man. Benoit Saint-Denis did have staph infection in that fight. He did. He had staph infection in that fight. I did not have staph infection. I am going to beat Dustin Poirier. Yeah, he did have staph infection. He lied about it in the build-up, and then after he lost, he was like, yes, it was staph infection. Like, and people forget, man. And he was doing well against Poirier, man. He was able to resist those guillotines from hell that Poirier went for. Didn't really go well, but yeah, he ended up getting chinned. I mean, it happens. His hands were dropped, and that, you know, to be fair, Benoit kind of does do that, where he drops his hands a lot, but, and he is, I wouldn't say chinny, but he gets cracked a lot. He might not have went down if he didn't have staph infection. I know that's a what if, you know, what if my grandma had a cock, she'd be my grandma, or grandpa, you know what I mean? But it is just like, it is there, you know, it's a questionable thing. But it was also a massive underdog, I want to say. Poirier was like plus 200, plus 300, something. Sorry, I think I'm getting sick as well. So you might see me reach for water. Anyways. Yeah. And then the Islam Makhachev fight, he got off of one fight, a one win. And before that, you know, you could say Chandler, Benoit, and remove the Justin Gaethje. That's 2 wins. That's two in his last 4. I think is what I'm trying to say. My brain is like on a fucking dial-up right now, but yeah, I would say like Poirier he was more open on the feet. He was slower. He was a little older. I think he's 36. I think he was 35 during the time of the Islam fight. But you know, and then the Max Holloway fight, I think we really saw like Poirier just don't got it no more. You can make an argument he was better in the Islam fight than he was the Max Holloway fight. I have no problems qualming over that. But if Dustin Poirier is shucking off takedowns, and he's normally not good at shucking off takedowns. I mean, you can look at the Khabib fight, but it's just worrying as an Islam fan, I'd say. Because Bilal Muhammad, as much as we like goofing on him on the channel, okay, Bilal Muhammad is a legit, like, former world champion, okay? He earned it on Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards had one of the most unimpressive performances of any lifetime in that Bilal Muhammad performance, but in the rematch, I should say. But Bilal wrestling is really good. We've seen it against Wonderboy Thompson. I don't know. I know the arguments. Okay, I know what you're gonna say, but Bilal Muhammad is a legit good grappler. You know, able to finish on Brady, which is gonna be featuring in a video coming up short that I'm probably gonna record after this as well. But you know, Gilbert Burns able to. Oh, he didn't out-grapple Gilbert Burns in that. That was a one-arm Gilbert Burns. Unimpressive. Ignore that. You know, beat Vicente Luque. Okay, good win. All right. And yeah, was able to out-grapple Stephen Thompson, Damian Maia, Leon Edwards, which Leon Edwards, you know, he was able to out-grapple Usman. Maybe not out-grapple, but resist the grappling of Usman. Usman then out-grappled Buckley. Buckley's aging like a good... You kind of get the Ouroboros UFC wins. You know what I mean? Like, he is a good grappler, good takedowns, trains with Islam Makhachev. That's another thing. But Jack Della Maddalena is kind of just like a big, better Volk. And that's not me trying to discredit Volk. I did not think JDM was going to beat Bilal Muhammad. Hey, right hand on the Bible, okay? I did not think JDM was going to beat Bilal Muhammad. But he did. And he did it in an impressive performance. It was a close fight, despite what JDM fans want to promote. It was a close fight. There's nothing wrong with it being a close fight. He did great against a Bilal Muhammad who had the chins from the gods, apparently. Could not get fucking wobbled in that fight. And he out-grappled Bilal Muhammad in every single situation. That's impressive as fuck. So, I'm still at odds for who I pick here. You know? JDM lost twice in his early career. His 2 debuts in his pro career. Islam Makhachev got chinned by a fucking nobody and Adriano Martins. And I get it. It's like, oh, but he's gone on this massive win streak since then. I know, but that's the same argument you can make with JDM. He's gone on a massive win streak since his 2 losses. So it's so fucking hard to predict. It is. Fuck, man. I still can't predict this shit. And I want to be right on this one so bad. Fuck, man. I'm just a fan of the sport at the end of the day. 29, 34 Islam. Just turned 34 to be fair. It's so hard to predict. It'll be in my prediction video for sure. I think I'm gonna... Fuck, man. See, the thing with JDM is that... And, hey, JDM fans, cover your ears. I just don't think JDM has a lot of power in his hands. That's just me being honest. From what I've seen in his fights, I don't think he has much power in his hands. And I know we can look at his earlier career where it's flatlining people with the right hand down the pipe. But that's early in his career against a lot of bums, unranked UFC comp. I'm talking about high level, you know, switch. I'm talking like, what are we talking about here? Like, I think Gene Silva hits harder than Jack Della Maddalena. You know? I think there's a lot of, like, lower division guys who hit harder than Jack Della Maddalena's punches. You know? Something about, like, JDM's punches, when I see him land, they just don't do enough damage. But he lands a lot, so that's sort of one of the benefits, you know? And we've seen him go 5 rounds. He's done really, really well 5 rounds. He doesn't quit, man. Like, that's the thing. If this gets past round 3, and I do think this will probably be a decision, a very close decision. If this gets past round 3, it's like, I think JDM just takes over. You know? And they can be close rounds, but they can still be JDM rounds. But then you gotta think about, there's been some rigging recently. There's some interesting scorecards amongst the Ulembekovs, the uh, oh, what? The Urmagomedovs, if you will. You know, there's a lot of interesting scorecards when you look at the odds, the evs. You know what I mean. Um, and it depends what ref we get. What if we get Downey Dan Miragliotta and JDM's and a guillotine or a Darce choke doesn't tap, and he's like fighting the hands and everything, and Dan just stops the fight instantly. You know? And then we're just gonna have to deal with Islam Makhachev fans. See, he was shit. You know? Like, that's the thing, man. You could have Downey Dan Miragliotta as a fucking ref, and then it's cooked. And now I think Keith Peterson, or what was his name? Not Keith Peterson. Some other ref is also being investigated now because of all the scandals going around. Fuck, man, it's so hard to predict. Oh, and we all know Sally Diamato's there, and it's a decision. We know what Sally D's gonna do. He's gonna be on the wrong side of history. Okay, so it's just like, bro, how do I predict this fight correctly? You know, this is the dilemma of UFC fans, man. What the fuck do we do in this situation? Jesus Christ, it's so difficult. But he's young, man. He's in prime. And I really don't think they're going to be that much different in size. Like, I think, 5'11", 5'10". I think JDM's going to be probably the same height upon fight day. And I think Islam's going to look filled in. One thing that is worrying me about the Islam side, if I were to pick Islam, I don't like when the fan base is trying to get the smallest, minute shit to justify why their fighter is going to be so much better come fight day. Like, when you hear, oh, you know, Chito Vera's been locking in with all these different trainers and he's really been pushing himself by, you know, doing a lot more cardio and shit. It's like, none of that shit matters, okay? Chito Vera's never had problems with cardio. He has problems with firing, you know? He has a problem with pulling the trigger. That's what Chito Vera has, you know? And the Islam Makhachev fan base, I'm just gonna be real, man. They're just like, oh, guys, have you heard? He's taking fucking creatine. Oh, JDM's cooked, bro. He's put on 15 pounds since creatine. It's his first supplement he's ever taken. Even though they've been on record saying they've taken supplements when they were 6 years old. Hey, just saying. But regardless, something in the water's over there, I guess, guys. But there's that. There's also a couple months ago, you know, people forget, man, they were talking about how Islam can't find ways to put on weight properly, and that was only a couple months ago. I want to say that was like maybe June, July, maybe August, something like that, but I find it hard to believe he's able to put on 15 pounds of muscle within a couple months. Like, that just feels unrealistic. This is a very, very tough fight to break down, and I get the arguments from both sides, and I haven't seen them, but I've seen, like, the thumbnails of, like, the Tracy Lucases, if you will, uploading shit about, what is it, like, the 5 arguments for each side or whatever. This is a legit 50-50 fight, and if you ask me who I'm putting my money on, gun to my head, I'm putting it on JDM, just being transparent. That's only because JDM's plus 200. Why the fuck would I take Islam Makhachev at minus 300 in a 50-50 fight? But this, I think, will be a 50-50 fight. I think it's going to be competitive back and forth. I think striking-wise, JDM is just going to have the edge. Islam Makhachev will land shots. And, oh, man, just the arguments I could see from sides, man. If this ends in an eye poke, I swear to God, if this ends in an eye poke, something's going on at fucking Dana White's headquarters. Something's up. If this is like Islam nut shots, Jack down Madalena, and he can't continue, oh my God, I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna fucking lose it, man. Yeah, I think I am gonna go JDM. I think I'm gonna lean JDM. I get why people are picking Islam Makhachev. I'm not gonna like fault people for picking Islam Makhachev. And I get the arguments for picking him. And I think this is gonna look like a welterweight v welterweight matchup, you know? As I mentioned before, Volk didn't take the proper time, just like Max Holloway, in my opinion. They haven't taken the proper time to really bulk up and really like fill into the next division. I think Islam's gonna fill into the next division just fine because he was already a big lightweight. And another thing, this is what I hate. Like, oh, he's only been 60% at his lightweight division in terms of skill set, strength, and all this other stuff. Where the fuck are you pulling that out of? Your ass? Like, who's coming up with these numbers? Give me the calculator on that. What the fuck? No way that's, like, it just doesn't make sense. If you're only 60% at 155, why the fuck are you at 155? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, that's what I mean. All these little, oh, he's taking creatine, guys. First supplement ever. Oh, he's taking on the proper weight now. Oh, he's only 60% when he walks in there against Volk in the first fight. No, bro. I don't rate that, you know? But yeah, I am gonna slight lean JDM, I think. It'll be in the prediction that I'm probably gonna upload maybe a little earlier in the week. Maybe right after this video. Maybe I'll do this one on Monday, prediction a Tuesday, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's been my thoughts. That's been where I'm at. This fight is truly hard to predict, and I think this will be the highest level fight in the UFC that I've ever watched live as my 3 years of experience. So if you're newer to the sport, I mean, this is the time to watch. Swear to God, if there's an eye poke. Another thing, Islam, I've been seeing a lot more highlights of Islam cheating in his fights. Getting some throws. Just saying. Anyways, fingers in the glove. Anyways. But yeah, that's been my thoughts. That's been my opinions on this fight. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. I think it's going to be really interesting to watch. I don't mind either man winning this, to be honest. I don't mind either man's outcome, but I'm going to slightly lean JDM. And that's been my opinions. If you made it to the end of the video, I want to thank you for watching. And as always, hope you have a good day.